Hello, and welcome to another edition of Conversation with Rob and Joshua, or better known as Josh. Josh, how's it going, man?
Very good. Yeah, it's a bright sunny day. It's
Mm-hmm.
been crisp lately, and I've been getting out. I like it.
Been getting out in the middle of COVID-19. I think this is month number, is it 10?
It depends where you start. I mean,
Uh-huh.
in the U.S., I feel like March is when we really started reacting,
Right.
but I guess the first cases were probably in February. I guess,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah, but thank God you and I were still here amongst the living,
Yeah,
considering that almost like 200,000 plus people have lost their lives, unfortunately, but we're still amongst the living. That all said, what have you noticed about New York City? Because we're both in New York City. What are the changes that you've noticed? Things that do things feel the same, or is there a difference out there?
good question. I mean, certainly when I first came back, it was much less crowded.
Hmm.
Now, traffic seems as high as it was before. Certainly the restaurants on the street is a big change. And
Right.
I hadn't thought about it that I was talking to someone the other day, I forget who, and they said a few months ago, like last year, if a restaurant proposed making an outdoor cafe, everyone would come out and be like, no, 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 no. Like it would not be, people didn't want that. And now I
Right.
think people want it to stay longer.
Hmm.
I mean, I haven't eaten at any of these outdoor restaurants. And I don't like that they use so much of the plastic that ends up in the garbage cans.
Hmm.
But that can be, you can have an outdoor restaurant without that. And so I really enjoy it. And I don't mind that it's extending the sidewalk. You know, in my neighborhood, I guess there's some that are like, they're a bit aggressive in putting as many tables out as they could. Like there's one restaurant, it's like a really tiny restaurant. And they actually have more space now
Really.
outside. They have more tables now than they did when it was indoors.
Mhm. Well, even in my neighborhood in Fidei, I find that like at around noon, the restaurants will occupy the streets and they'll set up shop so that
Mhm.
diners can come out and eat. Definitely around 5, you see that they shut down a lot of streets and people are on the outside. And it actually reminds me a lot of the village back in the day when they had like
Mhm.
a number of restaurants. And on a Friday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, you would see people all over milling about
Yeah.
and just enjoying life, especially during the spring and summer months. Now, like I said, I see it, and it's almost nostalgia because I like it, but at the same time, I know that it's not going to last forever, and there's always this element of, is this safe? Because in my neighborhood, unfortunately, there are a lot of homeless people
Mhm.
walking about, talking to themselves or doing whatever. And recently, we were notified, the neighborhood was notified that they're planning on opening up a shelter for men
Mhm.
in one of the upscale hotels. Now, of course, the community, they're pushing back out of concern. FIDI used to be nothing but Wall Street executives. Now it's more family oriented. It's like a suburb in the city. So there's a lot of concern that, we'll now have homeless men walking about living amongst us. Now that might seem kind of like, he sounded like he's bourgeois, but there is an element of concern, I think, for a lot of people. And as you walk around the city, you do see elements of things that weren't there, I would say, 6 months to a year ago. Now
Yeah.
it's changed.
Yeah. Should I share this experience I had in Washington Square Park yesterday?
Absolutely.
So well, I'll start with a positive note for me that I'm getting a lot of interest now from um, someone who's considering running for Senate in a future election, um, not this cycle. Uh, People in city politics, people contact me and like, we're looking for sustainability leadership advice.
Hmm.
And all these people who are like, Josh, what one person does doesn't matter. They don't get that you have to learn the skills and so forth. So that led to yesterday, I met for coffee with someone in city government, and not someone super high up. I doubt people would know the name, but
Right.
and we met as I like to meet people in Washington Square Park, and so I knew that I forget if people know, well, if people don't know, I pick up at least one piece of litter every day. During the pandemic, it's more like 20, 30 pieces a day. And I don't have to go out of my way to do it because there's so much garbage on the streets now that even just stuff that's directly in my path that I have to step over, that all adds up. Actually, people are stopping me in the street increasingly now and stopping and thanking me, like not asking them to. And it's kind of nice. It's, I hope that it spreads, but that's not why I'm doing it. Well, I'm doing it to spread a habit. Anyway, so I meet this guy in Washington Square Park, and the deal is we're going to meet under the arch. I'm also specifically, besides my picking up garbage every day, I also specifically go to the northwest corner of Washington Square Park, which in the 21 years that I've lived here has always, if you go there after dusk, someone's always going to come up to you and go like, smoke, smoke, weed, smoke, smoke, because they sell drugs there.
I'm sorry, you're saying they're asking smell or
Smoke, smoke.
Smoke,
Yeah,
okay.
they go smoke, smoke, weed. And for the past roughly 20 years, as I go by, I just go, no thanks. And I don't really think much of it. At times there were times when I've seen people arrested, but it's very rare. Since the pandemic, it's moved to, well, now I see syringes, which I presume is heroin, maybe meth. I don't know what people, I'm not on top of what the syringe is for. Maybe it's, I don't know, but the syringe is on the ground. And people, I see, the furtive look of, you can tell when someone is like, you see the little bit of cash and they're like kind of looking like that, passing the stuff back and forth. Mm-hmm. And this is happening in broad daylight now. And I've seen people smoking something out of a pipe that was not marijuana. So, now it's still safe in the sense of people are walking through in the middle of this. Like I've heard people say, let's not enter that corner because that's a sketchy corner. And they walk a longer way around, like NYU students. Mm-hmm. And now, since it seems safe to physically be there, I am specifically also picking up garbage in that corner. And I'm not trying to meet them, but since I go there every day and I always pick up garbage. And at first it seemed like they were kind of confused, but now they kind of get, I'm the guy who comes by and picks up garbage. And it talked to me. One day I went in and a guy came up and was like, hey, you're in Facebook. And I was like, what? Because I haven't logged into Facebook for at least a year or two. And he goes, yeah, someone must have taken a picture of you because there's a picture of you on Facebook. And I was like, oh, kind of interesting that the guy's looking out for me, or I don't know. And there's a couple that we've shared names and talked a bit. And all right, so I meet this guy, this politician underneath the arch, and he's like, should we sit down, maybe get a coffee? And I say, yeah, but can we at least go through that corner because I want to pick up my garbage for the day because I always pick up garbage there. I told him what I just said to you. And like we're walking by and there's like openly, this is 8:30 a.m. and there's just openly selling, I don't know, transactions going on. I'm not looking into detail of what's going on. I'm just picking up the garbage because I want them to feel like I don't know where I'm going with it. I'm not sure what's going to happen. And so the guy in politics was like, it's like in his face and he's looking at it and he's like, oh, this is not shocking, but not pleasant. And then fast forward to the end of the day, it happened that I was coming back from that. I was coming back from doing something at NYU and I passed through that corner and no, it wasn't, I didn't pass through that corner. It was like half a block away from there on Waverly. And I see these three people talking as I walk by. There's like pills and money. And I was like, oh man. So I began and ended the day with drugs being openly sold in a part of, most people, when people describe where to live in New York City, people often describe the Greenwich Village as like the most expensive place to live in the city. And which has not been the case for me because I don't live the way that most people do. Like, I cook at home all the time. And I'm sharing what happened. And partly because I want to kind of work it out and just get different people's perspectives.
Well, it just goes back to, as I was asking, do you think things have changed?
Well,
before the pandemic, I would assume you would walked across Washington Square Park on numerous occasions and didn't see those types of transactions. However, 10 months or so into this pandemic, first we started out with a massive shutdown, then a gradual opening, and then now it's spring, summer, a complete opening, so to speak. And you see these types of things that are happening. And during the time of the pandemic, there have been a lot of social issues that have also taken place. And talk of defunding the police and, just so much that has been happening that now that we're opening up and we start to walk around town, and I'm sure this is probably true in many different states and cities and towns, people are noticing a difference, especially in the larger cities, that the way of life that you left, which you left when you went in and you came out, is not the same place. It's almost like a Rip Van Winkle effect
Mhm.
that we see that's happening. And like I said, I see it myself when I'm walking around in FIDI, which was once a really very, and it still is, friendly and safe, but I would have reservations about walking out, let's say at 1 a.m. in the morning, going for a jog or just, walking around, strolling to, see the moonlight. I live right by the water to see the water. There's there would be some concern because of things that have changed. At one point where I lived, a place called the Seaport, before they built it the way it is now, it was a haven for homeless men, and people were always being attacked. Past decade, it's changed. It became family friendly, family oriented. There are a lot of high end, high upper scale restaurants that are now in that area. I don't know if those restaurants are going to be able to open. Some of them were getting ready to open, when things were shut down. And now that things are opened, I'm still waiting, like, okay, what's going to happen? But, I still see my neighborhood homeless man who's walking around and openly drinking.
Yeah,
They're puffing,
a
right?
lot more liquor bottles on the ground.
They're
Yeah.
puffing on something. Whatever they're puffing on, the scent is not desirable for me.
Mhm.
But it makes you, how did we get to this so quickly? Was it always there and it was hidden? Why is it so openly now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the top thing, the immediate cause to me, and this is not the root cause, if there
Mhm.
is any. I mean, it's just more as a system. I don't think it's like one root cause, but um, there are fewer people. I mean, people are moving back now, but when I got here, there was much less. The number of people who live here, walking on the streets, was lower.
Mhm.
The number of shops that were open was smaller. The number of restaurants that were open was smaller. So that's going to mean, and if you live here, presumably, like I'm trying to figure out, are they coming here because people here are buying their drugs, or are they here for a different reason? Because there must be some flow of money, but uh, in any case, there's fewer people who live here. I presume the people who live here in your community, in one's own community, one doesn't want people ODing on the street.
Right.
So if there are few people from the community, the foot traffic is going to be less of people who want the community to have a long-term viability. So that's going to make it more attractive or less unattractive for people who don't care about the future of the local community. And a park is, it's a free country. People have liberty to walk in an open park, and if they're not doing anything illegal, it's their right. I want them to do what they want.
The sidewalk is free. You can't, relegate who's walking on the sidewalk. But something that you said, as far as people coming into the
Yeah,
community.
and the park. Well, in the park in particular.
Mhm. But just to add on something that you said, people coming into the community, is it that they were always there and we didn't notice them because they were handling their transactions undercover in a discreet type manner? Whereas now they're openly doing it. I mean, albeit probably in a corner somewhere, but like I said, the people that are walking around the sidewalks with liquor bottles and smoking, and not smoking cigarettes. Well, they're smoking cigarettes, but it's not like tobacco. It's something else, the powerful smell. And like you said, the syringes, I'm yet to see the syringes here, but it just begs the question, was it always here, but done in a discreet manner? Whereas now, for some odd reason, it's like they've been given the okay to just do it right front and center. Is it because they feel that there is no recourse, nothing will happen?
Yeah, part of the reason I'm going there is that I'm kind of curious. I don't know if I'll be able to talk to them in a meaningful, have meaningful communications with them.
And they being, you say they.
Whoever's in the corner,
Okay, the corner
like,
people. Okay.
yeah, I've talked to a couple of them,
Mhm.
and we've exchanged names and where they're from. And I mean, to me, there's a TED talk. It's like the opposite of addiction is community,
Mhm.
and I would expect that there's um, when do you use drugs? I think it's when you don't have anything better to do. I guess everything you do is you do because you don't have anything better to do. And I imagine that if there's an increase in the number of people using, it's a sense of less looking forward to,
Less
maybe
looking
less
forward
support,
to.
less hope, less expectation of a better future,
Okay.
less expectation that if I act, then I will get a result. If they feel like whatever I do, it doesn't matter, then might as well just go for pleasure.
Right, but you could say that on. But it starts out. We've been identifying or saying that we've seen homeless people, or people who, would we would. I guess I don't want to say we would expect to see it, but usually it starts there. People who live out on the streets, and they're not well kept. But then eventually, as society begins to erode, it starts to hit every socioeconomic level. And then you start seeing people in BMWs and Mercedes, and now probably Ubers driving up to the corner guy looking for a hit or getting ready to conduct some type of transaction. That's my concern, that if this is left unchecked and we allow it to continue, eventually it will hit every level in society. And you'll have people who are in corporate America, people who live in FIDI and live in the Greenwich Village, people that we think, okay, they belong here, they're reputable and whatnot, but then they will get involved, then they will form an addiction. And if that happens, we will really have a problem on our hands.
Well, yeah, my perspective is I'm sharing with you my observation, but my
Mhm.
reaction is not to wonder. I mean, I can trace down where it could go.
Right.
And by the way, uh, business school has put me in touch with very elite people in the world, and the amount of drugs used by them is pretty high too.
Right.
I mean, they're not getting arrested on the street for it, but
Yep.
they're
Not
enjoying it.
now. Right.
Um, so for me, the way I put it is, a couple months ago, there was James Altucher wrote that piece that got a lot of people talked about, that said New York is never going to recover. And then Jerry Seinfeld wrote a piece in response saying, of course we will. We always have and we always will. And I don't look at things. I believe that if we look at things passively and say this is happening and it's happening, we can't do anything about it, I think then I think James will be right.
Mhm.
But I think if we act and do something about it, then I think we can make Jerry right. And to me, it's what do we do about it? So picking up litter is a bit of broken windows, I think, of if we care about the details, then other things then that'll have an effect. If we don't care about the details, then it opens a door for further degradation.
Mhm.
As one person, there's only so much I can do. I
Right.
think that as a result of my being there daily, that there's probably less litter than there would be otherwise. And by litter, I really mean more than just the litter on the ground. I mean, I think that I think that I'm maybe making an effect on them thinking someone does care about this. It's not just like this affects others than just me. Now, I'm biased because I want to feel that way. But
Right.
really, I want to connect with my community. That's why I'm talking about the politicians, because I want to make this grow. I
Mhm.
want to make people feel that stewardship is what they want to do, that they like doing it, that
So,
everyone picks up a bit of litter every day.
so are you caring or suggesting that they pick up litter? Or you say you have conversations with them. Have you seen them pick up litter? Or,
Yeah, when I go there, they thank me. Not everyone. And okay, they come up to me and they say, do you want to buy some weed? And I say, oh, you haven't recognized me yet? I'm the guy who comes by and picks up garbage every day.
Oh, really?
And then I say, I hope that it doesn't get there in the first place, that people put it in the trash can or don't get the stuff to litter in the first place. And sometimes we'll chat a little bit. And then, like one time there was a kid, there's a group of kids and they didn't look like that group, but they did look like they were doing drugs. It looked like
what is like that group?
Skateboarders, or I don't know.
Okay.
It looked like younger kids, but they didn't look like
Derelicts.
Yeah, they looked like kids like doing drugs where they knew they could do it, but not. I don't know. In any case, I'm just walking along, and as I'm walking, something skitters across in front of me, a piece of plastic, and I think it was like a vaping something for vaping.
Right.
And I'm just walking, and everyone sees you coming because I guess you're pretty conspicuous if you're bending down and picking up garbage all the time. And so I don't know what this piece of plastic was, so I pick it up, figuring I'm just going to throw it away. And as I pick it up, the kid comes over and it's like, oh, no, let me get that. I don't want you to have to pick that up. Mm-hmm. So I think I saw in him a sense of shame of like, before I went to pick it up, he was like, F it, I don't care. Just, right. I'll leave this, whatever. And after he saw someone not chastising him, just picking it up, he was like, oh, someone cares. I don't want to overstate what I think the effect of what I've done so far is.
Mm-hmm.
But
because are they the regular cast of characters? Do they see you there all the time, or is it the same kid? Or maybe just at that moment he's like, okay, I'll pick it up, as opposed to you having to pick it up.
Yeah, that was a one-time kid. It reminds me of, this is long before the pandemic, but one time I was walking along and I saw, it was like late at night, I think Meatpacking District, maybe West Village. And I saw some people talking, and one guy just drops I think it was like a Coke bottle or a can. He's like there's like maybe 5 people all facing each other chatting. And he just kind of puts behind him, drops it on the ground. So as I come by, I say, I didn't have it in me to just pick it up. I pick it up and I said to him, you dropped this. Mm-hmm. And he said something really dismissive. Oh, I didn't pick it up. I said, you dropped that, because I wanted him to pick it up.
Right.
So he's like, go away or something like that. Not so dismissive as that, but he like kind of turns away and doesn't address me. Mm-hmm. So I say, fine, I'll pick it up then. And his 4 friends are like, oh, they got on him. Mm-hmm. They're like, how do I put it? I hadn't seized the moral high ground, but I think they said like, he got you on this one.
Right. Because he didn't pick it up.
Because like he shouldn't have littered it in the first place. And okay, so the guy is going to do it for you. Now, how great do you feel now? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know exactly. It's just, I felt really good that the other 4 like chastised him.
But just imagine if you could do that, around the city of New York, when people are littering or dropping something down, you're able to shame them into picking it up, shaming people into keeping the neighborhood clean, shaming people into making certain that the derelicts aren't in the neighborhoods.
Well, I'm not looking to shame. They may
right. I'm just saying, but you're not looking to do it, but maybe it has a purpose. And if people were able to do it, maybe people wouldn't drop, the litter or the syringes. Yeah. But then too, shame ceases to exist, it seems, in society. And that's the reason why we have, one of the reasons I think we have some of the issues that we do have, because no one is shamed anymore. I can do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to be looked at as being, shame has turned into the cool thing. Shame me. Hey, that's cool if I do that. I can throw this down. Who's going to kill? Like you said, the guy tried to secretly, why would you secretly try to drop your Coke bottle or your soft drink bottle? Why would you do it if you see that there's a garbage can right next to you? And I see that all the time. I'll see people walking on the streets and they're walking right toward a garbage receptacle, and they'll just, I'm just going to throw it down. It's like, really? Even on the subway, people, oh, okay, I'm just finished my coffee. I'm just going to leave it here in the seat for the next person.
Yeah. So I want to act on that. I want to help set community norms. The tool for me is not shame, because I find that if I try to bring out that shame, then that generally they will push me away and resist my they resist hearing my communications. So, but eating habits, drinking habits, smoking habits, they move around, they spread through community. I mean, it's not the only thing, but if you try to get someone to change their eating habits and you just give them facts and figures, it doesn't work as well as if their neighbors start changing their behavior.
Right.
So I'm trying to do that. Oh, I've totally forgotten. There's a whole other side to this, which is that there's a couple organizations that I'm working with that are, they get sponsorship by companies that are looking to look more eco. And I don't want to talk about, there's nothing private here, but there are deals in the works that might get large groups that have national presence are looking for ways to look more eco, look more sustainable. And they're coming.
Well, when you say look, are they actually is it just window dressing, or they're looking to lead by example?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like they're coming to me because they don't want to be called greenwashing. They don't want to look one way when they're not that way. So like, how can we be authentic? And so I'm working with them, and we're talking about making some of their events that are normally outdoor events where people gather together that they can't do anymore, at least not during the pandemic. And I want to I'm saying to them, how about going into the cities? You don't have to be in the same place at the same time, but all pick up garbage together and have like friendly contests within the different chapters of these groups where each of them in their different places will clean up the garbage. And I think that there could be a big shift because some of these organizations are pretty big.
Right, but didn't we have that back in the 80s or the 90s? Was adopt a highway, adopt a street, whereby you and your group of people would go out and keep it clean, and then you would get your name. I know back in universities, they would do a different college sororities and fraternities, adopt a highway, adopt a street. They would go out, they would pick up all the garbage, and then they would have their fraternity name or sorority on some type of placard on that street. And I even see that now before the shutdown, in driving around different places and visiting different states and cities, I would see this highway has been adopted by this particular social organization or civic group. Mm-hmm. But still, there's garbage. There's still things that I think that you're trying to address that weren't addressed. And when you say that these companies are contacting you because they want to be seen as eco-friendly or whatnot, it's one thing to be seen, but to actually live by those values and to continue it, it's difficult. I don't think that in society we have gotten to a place whereby people have really just like, it's really clicked, and that we're all making a concerted effort to do better. But going back to Washington Square Park, it's a very nice park, but now you see that the dens and means of society have now set up shop there or trying to set up shop. Why? It just goes back to, why is that happening? And you say you don't want to shame.
There's a major pandemic.
Well, a major pandemic, but still, you said that you don't want to shame people. And I said, well, right, well, could you shame them? Because shame doesn't seem to exist anymore. I think that if the element of shame were to be brought back, maybe people would think twice before they did some of the things they were doing. And maybe these companies would say, hey, plaster all these billboards, and people say, wow, look at them. They're clean. They're doing this. They're doing that. This is a cool thing to do. Let's jump on it. But it has not caught on. But look at the 80s and the 90s with adopt this, adopt a highway, adopt a street, adopt this, adopt that, keep it clean. But still, it seems as though people, and I'm speaking loosely here, find it a thrill to throw things on the sidewalk, on the streets, go to a park and conduct transactions, legal transactions. That seems to be the cool thing. How do you change that? Yes, we're in a pandemic, but I would think that even then people would say, hey, because of this, we don't want our neighborhoods to go down. We don't want things to go the way they were years ago. So let's do all we can to change that. But with go ahead.
Most people aren't trying to change things. I mean, as it happens, I think most people have the most means are probably like, well, I'll get out of here. I don't think that helps solve the problem. It's just they escape it. Mm-hmm. Now, you're saying, what do we do about it? I don't think anyone has the answer to that. And otherwise we would do it. Right. But my question is it possible? And I look at, when I was a kid growing up,
Oh, I'm sorry, when you say, is it possible? Is what possible?
Is it possible for the norms for people to not accept litter, for example, as one thing of many? And have we changed norms in other areas? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, when I was a kid, smoking was like Humphrey Bogart, and now smoking is like diseased lungs.
Right.
Plenty of people smoke.
Yeah, I
But
hardly ever see people smoking. When I do see it, I'm like, wow, this person is smoking?
yeah, it's kind of weird. I
So
mean,
how can we, go ahead.
my high school principal smoked a tobacco pipe in the school building.
Hmm.
I don't think that would fly. I don't think that would be acceptable today.
Right.
When I was a kid, if you said to someone, if someone got in a car and didn't put on their seatbelt, and you said, put on your seatbelt, they'd be like, don't tell me what to do.
Right.
It's not going to hurt anyone but me. And now I don't think anyone thinks about it. It's just like, when you get in, you do it. And, there's laws, there's technology, and certainly the seatbelts. When I was a kid, like seatbelt adjusting was like, took you like 5 minutes because you had to, I don't know, had that big mess.
Untangle it and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's really easy. Drinking and driving is another place where, plenty of drunk drivers today, but a lot fewer than before. And I mean, you can't say, give me one for the road anymore. I'm sure people do it, but it's much less than before. And so these are models of behaviors that have changed a lot. And, if you look at on a bigger scale, the fluorocarbons, the CFCs and the HCFCs from the ozone hole, that was like a global change. And everyone said beforehand, look, you want refrigerators? You got to have these chemicals. And there's nothing we can do about that. And so, but my refrigerator works pretty well. And we've cut out those chemicals. So all of these things are, no two things are exactly the same. But my question is just, have things like this happened before? I mean, Times Square is obviously much cleaner today than before.
Right.
Even if the trajectory is going back to what it was like before.
Oh, I hope not.
It's coming from, I mean, I was here the first time I came to New York would have been 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just remember it was like porn shops and the grit of New York in the 70s and 80s. And that definitely changed.
Right.
Some of it is, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, some of it was like maybe the broken windows ideas of policing. Maybe some of it was the economy. Maybe some of it was lending habits for inner cities, and that, well, I'm not going to try to disentangle all these different things.
Right, but this is definitely the perfect storm for it to go back to, the way it was. And then there would be a climate issue on our hands.
So I think that personally, I believe that this is also opportunity to act. Mm-hmm. That, I wrote this piece in a journal, and where I said this could be our finest hour. And a friend of mine read it and wrote me and said, Josh, people are dying all over the place. This is not our finest hour. And I thought about that phrase. People don't say this is our finest hour when you wake up in the morning, it's a beautiful day, and you go out and look at the sunrise. Mm-hmm. You say, I personally came across the phrase in the movie Apollo 13, when there were 3 astronauts in space, and, could we get them back alive? And it's pretty tough when someone's off in space to help them, but they did bring them back alive. Anyway, there's that scene where the NASA, the guy who talks to the press was talking to the guy who's like the head of the mission, and he's saying, well, what do I tell them? I mean, everything's going wrong. And the guy was, yeah, everything's going wrong. It's like, this could be their biggest disaster. And then this other guy turns and says to him, with all due respect, sir, I believe this will be our finest hour. Mm-hmm. So finest hour applies when you're in a disaster and you pull yourself out. And there have been plenty of finest hours in history. And I don't want to look at this. I don't want to be the guy who's like, yeah, this could be the greatest disaster ever.
Right.
I mean, even if it was, I'm glad that the guy who was like, this could be our finest hour, was there running the details of the show. Right. Because that's who I want around.
Right.
And I don't want to be rah-rah, because I want to be more like Churchill of like, it's going to be difficult. This is not going to be easy.
Right.
But we will fight. In that case, it was fight. In this case, it's not, take to arms, but it's, I don't know exactly what the answer is. I'm certainly doing what I can not because I think this little bit helps, although I do think it is non-zero, but because I learn what works, what doesn't work. I connect with others who are trying other things. And I think that there's a way out. I believe that we can get a way out, even despite that the pandemic we have limited control over the spread. We have limited control. We can't snap our fingers and make it go away. We can't just make a vaccine happen. And even if we do, I mean, there are plenty of viruses that we can't get to go away. I mean, smallpox mostly taken care of, polio mostly taken care of, but HPVs, they linger forever.
Right.
And it's possible that it's possible. And in any case, everyone says that there'll be more pandemics in the future, and we're not stopping the behavior that leads to pandemics happening.
Right.
Which is the factory farming and the encroaching into wildlife territory and the wet farms, wet markets.
Right, and because that, just going back to how we originally opened this up, speaking about Washington Square Park and the drug use and whatnot, that in itself could be its own pandemic if it's not addressed. Josh, I really appreciate you coming on with me to have this discussion. I would ask our listeners and viewers, is this our finest hour? Can we find hope in the middle of this pandemic? Is there a way that we could bridge the gap to not only save the world from itself, its own destruction, but at the same time look at climate change and the effects that it's having around us? You've been watching a conversation with Rob and Josh. Tune in again, and we will pick this up. Thank you. You can follow me on Twitter at RobJH1, and you can also follow Josh. Josh?
At joshjospodek.com, and thank you again.
Thank you.